Hi, I'm John. This is my show, An American Scheme, where I'm proving that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual mother. So, this is a guy by the name of John Mangini. If you see in the back, you can't see it. It says the John Mangini Collections. This is one of the people that's over in the sports card community, right? And so now this guy in the sports card community is very well respected. When you talk about people that have like just very, very impressive sports card collections, sports memorabilia, and actually has knowledge too, that he's got the knowledge and the history of the sports world, and he's got a lot of knowledge. He's very well respected, right? But to me, these are just loser. These are just stupid little children who are fucking totally influenced by the evil society and the ways of the world. They're just total brain dead loser moron failures, right? So I don't care about how great your fucking collection is when it turns out that you're actually just a Satan worshiping fucking loser and you're gonna die and then that's it. You're a loser. What good is it? I know there's some kind of saying that says like, what good is it to gain the whole world but to lose your soul? There's some kind of saying like that, right? And so that's the way I feel with these kind of people. Same thing with like Michael Jackson, is what we're gonna get into here and shit, right? And so this guy, I'm always after this guy, trying to get him to give me his opinion about some of my work. And he can't do it, right? Because the problem is these people are Satan worshipers, right? And my work is true. And the problem of why these people can't respond to my work is because my work is so real and so powerful. And I call it's the face of God. Because my work is so real and it's so true. It's so powerful. And it gives the presence of what I understand of like being able to look into the face of God, to be able to deal with reality of what truth is, and it's very difficult to do that and shit, right? And so this loser he's never done anything. And then so he'll do a little thing like this, right? He'll do a little thing, and he makes this video. The video is called A Personal Motivation Story, right? So this motivation story, what it is, he's trying to give me a motivation story, right? And it's like, okay, dude, I asked you for help. It's like I was drowning, and I asked you for help. And he gave me a inspirational speech. Instead of helping, he fucking tried to inspire me, and he tried to inspire me, and he tried to explain to me how much better I'll be if I can save myself, and I'll learn my lessons, and I'm like, I'm drowning, you fucking idiot, help. And he's like, you can do it. Trust me. Just give it 110%, and you'll get out of there, and you'll be a better man. And he's like he's trying to tell me, this is how you got to do it. You got to say, I will save myself. I will save myself. I will get out of this water, and I will become a better person. And I'm just like, I'm drowning. Help me, you fucking idiot. Right, so he was doing this, he made this most motivational speech and tried to inspire me, and within that he inserts this. It's like he can't deal with my story, so he inserts this Michael Jackson part, right? And so I know he's totally doing this for me, but he can't talk to me because he can't deal with my story, because my story is real, and he's a fraud, and he lives in a world of Satan and shit, right? So here's him talk about Michael Jackson for a second.
Michael Jackson, if you go online, you can find the letter he wrote to himself when he was still with the Jackson 5. And it is chilling. He wrote out the course of his life. And he said, I will become the biggest pop star in history. And he wrote a letter to himself. And when you watch it, when you read it rather, everything he wrote on that paper came true. So I want you to do an exercise. If you are on YouTube and you're trying to grow your channel, put a subscriber number in your head. Put a subscriber number in your head.
See right there. See, he's going to go on the motivational. What he's talking about is black magic, right? It's not motivational and inspiration. You're talking about conjuring demons and making deals with Satan and shit. That's what he's actually talking about, and that's what Michael Jackson fucking did. He did make a mistake when he said he was still with the Jackson 5. technically still with the Jackson 5, but I believe that the letter, because I'm going to show you here, I believe the lady says it's in 1979, you know, so we're talking, you know, off the wall era and stuff. So Michael has already, you know, they're definitely out of Motown. Michael's already established himself as a solo artist and stuff, right? But he's going to take the next step to the Thriller, right? He's going to go to the Thriller, where he fully immerses himself into black magic and the dark arts and drawing upon any source that he can, because he has a mission. And what it is, the reason he wants to be the greatest and stuff is because he's got the problem where he's not a Jackson. He's dealing with all kinds of mental issues and shit, right? And because he can't tell the truth and stuff, he makes this deal with Satan. And so this is Michael Jackson conjuring black magic and making a deal with Satan and shit, right? So this says, Karen Langford, longtime legal advisor, archive manager of the Michael Jackson estate. Okay, and she's reading this letter, okay? So this is the Michael Jackson's letter.
November 6, 1979? He was
See, November 6, 1979 is what she said. Like, so it's one of these, do I know exactly and stuff? No, but that is, that's what she said. So that's when I'm going to take it from when this letter was actually written, 1979, okay? So he's not a kid and shit. He's 21 years old and shit, right? He's not a kid. So here we go, listen to this.
I rode with his brothers on the Destiny tour. MJ will be my new name. No more Michael Jackson. I want a whole new character, a whole new look. I should be a totally different person.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be having any association with the Jacksons anymore. Well, why? Because he's not a Jackson. It is part of him developing. It is part of him having to deal with the reality of who he is and moving into his own person. And right off of the bat, what's the first issue? He doesn't want to be associated with the Jacksons no more. He doesn't want to be called Jackson, because that's like, this is the magic spells. And Michael knows that his name being Jackson is bringing him down for becoming this other thing that he's got to clarify his own identity. And you know, this is what's going on. But this is black magic. What this letter is this is not an inspirational thing that people should use as forms of inspiration and stuff. This is black magic. This is demon fucking Satan worship and shit. That's what this fucking is.
People should never think of me as the kid who sang ABC, I Want You Back. I should be a new, incredible actor, singer, dancer. That will...
Right there, he's a horrible actor. Now, he can do it good in his videos because he's portraying himself as who he actually is, a singer and a dancer and shit, right? So then it looks like, so you can call that acting, but that's not acting. He's just being himself. Because when he actually tries to act, he's a horrible actor and shit, right? He never became a great actor, and he was bad at it. This is one of those things right there. He failed at that. He definitely failed at that. Right? He definitely never became a fucking great actor and shit, right? Definitely did not. But he's separating himself from the Jacksons. He doesn't want to do the Jackson kid stuff. He's got to completely destroy that image. He wants to completely destroy any of the image that links him to the Jacksons, any of the thing of linking him to a child. He's got to reinvent himself so he can expose to the world who he actually is. That he's the child of Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson. And that's why he goes ahead and sells his soul to Satan and starts you start dabbling in the black arts and shit, right? And he was willing to do anything because he didn't want anything to do with the Jacksons. That was the one thing. He didn't want nothing to do with that no more, because that's not who he is. And he wants nothing to do with that, and he's willing to go into satanic black magic ritual shit in order to get away from that shit.
Shock the world. I will do no interviews. I will be magic.
I will be magic. That's the thing. Is I will be magic. That's what this is all about. It's about magic. It's about black magic. This is not God stuff. This is demonic, Satan worshipping stuff. Black magic. This is the black arts. This is what he was doing.
I will be a perfectionist, a researcher, a trainer, a master. I will be better than every great actor roped in one.
And when he says he'll be a master, just so you people know, if you've never read the Bible, there's a thing in the Bible that says, like, God tells you that there's things that you are not. You can't ever call yourself that. One of those is master. It's teacher, master, and I think father. I think those were like words he says that God says God's the only father, God is the only teacher, God is the only master and shit, right? So when you're calling yourself those and trying to take this presence of being like a godlike presence and shit, but you're still just a mortal human who ended up a dead junkie and shit, a dead virgin junkie and shit with fake children and shit, right? It's like real life comes and smacks you in the face and shit, right? You got to be who you really are. These people don't know who the fuck they really are.
I must have the most incredible training system to dig and dig and dig until I find. I will study and look back on the whole world of entertainment and perfect it. Take it steps further from where the greatest left off.
Okay, so right there, he just told you, I'm going to steal from every fucking great entertainer that ever, I'm going to get inspiration from every great entertainer and performer that ever lived, and then I'm going to steal from them, and I'm going to keep advancing the work in which they started and shit, right? So he just told you, I'm going to steal from every fucking great entertainer that ever lived and shit, right? That's what he did.
You guys are really riding a big high now as far as...
There's one simple hearing...
Okay, so there's that. Now, this is Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley, The Vision and the Voice, the 777, the Method of Science, and see the imagery and the symbolisms of what's associated with this guy. This is the kind of stuff. This is black magic, the aim of religion. Aleister Crowley, 777. Right? And then I'll just pull up another picture. This is Aleister Crowley. This is the actual guy. That's actually Aleister Crowley. And when you hear the stories about who this guy is and what he was doing, this guy he would actually be like a spy, a secret agent, a government spy. But what his thing was to introduce debauchery into society, and it was his things to participate in the most horrific fucking things like child molestation, all that shit, right? The deepest, darkest fucking shit that you could possibly fucking experience and shit, right? That's what this guy was all about. And this is who Michael Jackson is using as his inspiration to becoming the great fucking entertainer of what he can. This is where it came from. This is all that shit that's demonic, black magic, the fucking dark arts of Satan worship and shit. This is what Michael Jackson went into, and that's why you get Michael Jackson with the 777 and all these satanic fucking images, these military. This is why Michael's all on the military, is these are all satanic fucking symbols. These are satanic fucking Satan worship symbols, and that's why Michael Jackson uses it, because those images have power. That's why the military uses them, because it's magic. It's dark fucking magic. It puts the fear of death into people, and it conveys a message that this guy has power, right? And you can't be the good, innocent person that cares about people and children and stuff when you're this kind of demonic Satan worshiping human being who is dabbling in the black arts. And that's how he gets to all this. And he's worshiping all of the military, the people who murder. And that's their whole job, to murder. That's the job of the military. And we call them heroes and shit, right? And I am fucking very well of what day it is today and fucking what I'm saying and shit, right? Because they are fucking murderers. If you ever had the courage and everything, you would say, I'm not going to go murder people for your fucking corporation so your business and your corporation can flourish and survive and shit. I'm not going to go murder people for your business interest and your further development of a satanic agenda to rule the world and shit. Michael sure as hell didn't do that. He put on that military garb and he benefited off of it, and he used it in the same way in which the military is. I'm going to become an idol. I want people to worship me. I want idol worship and shit, right? But what this is all about is the end game is that Michael couldn't tell the true story of who he was. And the only way for him to, in his mind, the only way to get his story known was he had to become such a big fucking star that somebody then could go back and analyze his work and actually understand it. And that was his whole mission of what he was trying to do. He wanted to be the biggest fucking star. He wanted to document who he really was. He would confess who he really is in his music and his art, but nobody ever could understand that shit, right? Because they were all infatuated with the imagery of Michael Jackson, because you're being you're being susceptible. It's susceptible. You're being like brainwashed and hypnotized by the black magic arts is what the people actually, that's what actually happened to them. So they didn't get to experience and understand the hidden message of what Michael Jackson was doing and exposing of his soul and his true nature in the music and the stuff. Nobody understood that stuff because they were just overwhelmed with the magical spells of what he was putting onto you. So it's this thing where he's doing both things at the same time. He's hypnotizing the world and the children, turning them all into satanic demon worshiping fucking losers and shit, right? Of which we call moonwalkers today. But he was also exposing the true nature of who he really was and what he wanted to be as his soul and in the music. And he was telling you the true story of what was going on. But nobody could ever fucking understand that shit because nobody ever gave a fuck about his soul because everybody was just overwhelmed by the fucking demonic black magic spells of what he was putting on people, right? So what I've told people over and over and over that the song Beat It, it's a mantra that Michael Jackson came up with. That this was his mantra, like the letter is telling you. It's the same thing, where he's saying, I'm going to be this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. That's what Beat It is. Beat It is the song that is about Joe and Catherine telling Michael Jackson that after Diana tells Michael the truth, and Michael now is thinking that he's the child of Diana and Smokey. He's trying to figure out what am I going to do. And then Catherine and Joe tell Michael, you're not the fucking kid. You know, you're not the fucking kid of Diana. You're our fucking kid, and you're going to live under our rules, and that's the way it's going to be. And nothing's going to change that. So Michael then understood that that is the truth. That's the way it's going to be. And so Michael then came up with the mantra. The only way that I can fucking free myself is I've got to be better than all of them. And he created like that letter of what he wrote, what he was going to do. And that's what this song is, Beat It. He's going to beat them all. The only way he can get free from them is to become the greatest entertainer and the best, and he's going to beat it. And then this is what Beat It, you can tell this is a really satanic, demonic song. It's like black magic and shit, right? Because when he starts going into beat it, 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 that's fucking satanic mantra. It's fucking devil worship and shit, right? And now, listen to the first part now when I'm talking to you about how Beat It is actually a satanic devil worshiping song and shit, right? Look at let's listen to the first music part, and you're going to see this is demonic, satanic ritual music. This is the summoning of demons. That's what this music represents. Now listen to it. All hail Satan! Satan is our father. Satan is our master. Satan will show us the way. That's what it is. You people are so dumb and shit, right? You don't know shit. You dumb fucking Michael Jackson fans are fucking stupid as fuck. So now, let me show you this next one. So, yeah, no one wants to be defeated, you know? This is that mantra. I'm going to beat you all because I'm going to show you I'm better than you. And that's why I said this is satanic. This is a satanic mantra. This is satanic worship. It's like, I mean, I like Michael Jackson and all this stuff, but I'm not going to deny what it actually is. You know, this is what it is. This is Michael Jackson selling his soul to the devil. So it's what it actually is and shit. Because he didn't want it, because the pain of being the fake child of the Jacksons and having to deal with it was so overwhelming. The pain of what he was dealing with and shit, right? Anything's better than that. When you're having pain, if somebody says, here's heroin, it'll get rid of the pain. As soon as you take that heroin and the pain is gone, then you realized it worked. I don't have that pain anymore. And so Michael Jackson, this is one of these things. When he got into this satanic ritual, the dark arts and shit, and he separated himself from the Jacksons and he became the greatest entertainer, it worked. It worked and shit, right? So he's not concerned about what damage and what lingering fucking ailments it's going to cause in his future and shit, right? With like, we're talking about like drug use or what the satanic black magic worshiping the devil stuff. He's not concerned about that. All he's worried about this time is getting rid of that pain of what he's dealing with, this fake Jackson bullshit. And he was willing to do anything to get rid of that shit. And he started worshiping the devil, right? And so the next line. I got to cut it because it'll switch it on those last words on who's wrong or right and shit, right? So he's showing how funky strong is his fight, because he's fighting. This is a battle. It's like with Michael with all the military garb. This is a battle for his soul, a battle for humanity, battle for his well-being, his mind, his psyche of his mind and shit. This is this fight of what he was doing and stuff, right? It is vicious. It is brutal. But see, like, I love pure expressions of the reality, the true, the truest nature. That stuff I'm really impressed with, of the human experience. That stuff I'm really impressed with. Like, this isn't going to turn me into a Satan worshiper and shit, right? But there is a technical thing. If this is satanic mantra, and if you keep repeating this song and you keep singing these words, you are actually dabbling in the black arts, and you are actually summoning demons and shit. I mean, it doesn't matter what you think. It's one of these things about Satan. Satan doesn't require you to know that you're a Satan worshiper to be a Satan worshiper. He'd actually rather you not know, right? He would rather you think you're doing something else when actually what you're doing is actually worshiping. That actually brings Satan a lot of joy and shit, right? So people think that Satan worshippers means, oh, you got to have horns and shit, right? And you got to telling people you got to be all evil and shit. No, a lot of the people that are the most evil Satan worshippers are like Christian ministers and shit, right? Because they're spouting that same satanic mantra. This is the way it is. They read out of the Bible, satanic mantra. It's the same fucking shit. There's no doubt about it of what it actually is and shit, right? But so he says it doesn't matter who's wrong or who's right. Because that's what I'm saying. At that point, with what he's doing, it didn't matter anymore that he was dabbling in the black arts and that he was summoning demons and shit. None of that shit mattered anymore. None of it mattered, because the only thing that mattered was he had to try and free himself of the burden that he was carrying of not being a Jackson and knowing that he's actually an abandoned child and his real parents are Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson, and nobody knew. That burden of what he was carrying and the pain of what it caused and shit caused Michael to say, fuck it. It don't matter who's wrong or right. It's not about wrong or right anymore. It's about this other thing. It's about relieving the pain and the burden of what he was carrying. It's about exposing the truth in a way that he can't tell you the truth, but he's got to expose it. And the only way, and this is where I say what he did here, is that he wanted to become the greatest entertainer because he knew that the only way possible for his true story to be understood was for somebody else to do it. He knew that it couldn't be him. And the only thing of what it could be, it has to be somebody who actually understood his songs. Somebody like that would come along. Someday it'll come along. And he knew that that's the way it works. It will come along someday. But he lived his whole life, and he went until 50 years old, and he finally said, fuck it, this is it. And he said, look, this is my only next option. He says it hasn't worked. He says it hasn't worked. I've tried. I've had 1 billion fans, and he's done all this work, and he's tried to do all this stuff. But he was defeated. He defeated himself. That's how it goes. He defeated himself, and he had to deal with the reality that he had defeated himself and his actual life thing. It never worked and shit because it was always a lie. His whole foundation was built on a lie and stuff. And when you're dealing in like black arts, it's like you're dealing in tricky shit, right? And so in the end, he says this is it, and he kills himself because the only outlet of what Michael Jackson had left was to die. He couldn't create any more music. There was no more music for him to create and things that he could do. He had done it all. He did it all. There was no doubt that Michael Jackson, when he got to that point in his life, he fully understood that he had been defeated. That even though he'd become the greatest, that nobody fucking understood him, right? And so with that kind of person who lived this kind of life, having to deal with the reality of that kind of defeat of what he had encountered, yeah, that's the kind of guy who will commit suicide, and that's what he did. And you can look at the timing of how it worked too perfectly. It's so perfect that he does the whole this is it thing, he finishes it all, does all the rehearsals, and exactly at the time when that's done, oh, now he's dead. Now he's dead. That caused the whole, so he's got all that documented and shit, right? But it causes the big dramatic thing, the Michael Jackson dead fucking thing. He killed himself. There's no doubt about what actually happened. He fucking killed himself. He was the one, Michael's in control of his own actions and shit, right? Michael's in control of his destiny. He wasn't going to leave his death up to the fucking some kind of random event and shit, right? It wasn't like that. He fucking did it. He fucking killed himself because he knew the only way possible at this time for anybody to really understand who he was, he's like, somebody's got to care about me. Maybe if I kill myself, that's what's going to do it, right? He's like, maybe I'll finally get one fan who's actually a actual good person, who's actually smart, who actually can understand all the shit. And me living my whole life, I never knew that my whole life, the way I was living my life and the way that I was being the person I was, the skills that I was acquiring and developing on my own, I never knew that it was going to lead to this, you know? But that's how life works. It's really weird and shit, right? Where like people, like I said, they create their mantras they want to gain wealth and shit, right? And my whole thing, my whole life, what I was trying to be, and this is, I said this from very young, after I did acid and I became the person who I was, my mantra was, I just want to be a good person. That was all I wanted to be. And within being a good person, I always was going to be judging myself very intensely. And I was going to be, and so like, I made mistakes. I did things that were wrong, no doubt about it. Very wrong and shit, right? But I identify those things as wrong, and then I analyze myself as, why did I do that? What emotions led me to be able to participate that way? You analyze everything. How did that happen? Why did I do that? And then you become better. You better yourself and become a better person. You keep advancing. So that doesn't make me a sinner. That makes me a student. That makes me a student of life. Right? And that's what I've been doing for a long time. And those skills of what I was developing, I never knew it was going to actually lead to actually being, for me participating in this kind of thing, right? I didn't know it was going to lead to this, but that is what it led to. Right? And so Michael Jackson was leading his life being the way he was. I was leading my life the way I was. But in the way how God works in mysterious ways, it converged that we ended up meeting up, that our lives ended up intertwining with each other. And he's the person he was, and I was the person I was. And then because of who we were, our lives ended up becoming intertwined with each other. And that's why I'm the person who made the discovery and shit, right? That's why I'm doing all this stuff. But what I'm dealing with, I'm still dealing with. Like I said, okay, so like there's a movie that I had originally made. It was called Diana Says That's My Baby. And that was the original time when I'd come into YouTube, right? And that original video, I had made a video, it's over 20-minute video. I made a video called Diana Says That's My Baby. And that's when I'd come into YouTube. But back then, like, I actually remember when YouTube got bought by Google, because, like, see how all the white in the background? Like, the people that know, like, in the back, you used to be able to make a background page for yourself. You used to have a background, and you would be able to put up a picture in the back and stuff. Like, YouTube was totally different when it was YouTube back then compared to when it got switched over to Google. And so when they switched it over to Google, they took away your ability to create a background, and they put that white in the back. Like, that's one of those things that happened. So I was there at that time. I was there doing my Michael Jackson story. But back then I came across the real trolls and stuff, right? And there was just all this stuff. And so then they got my page deleted and shit, right? The page that I had originally. And then I just took like 5 years. I didn't do any more YouTube and stuff, right? I just because what was happening was, so when I made that video, the video that says Diana Says That's My Baby, I made that video in the house I live right now. So I know that at that time I was already taking care of my dad, right? Because the house that I live in now, the reason I have this house is because my dad crashed his car. He crashed his car into a parked car, right? And he went to the hospital, and the hospital said they were not going to release him because he's not mentally capable of taking care of himself anymore. They were going to force him into an assisted living facility, right? And this is like 12, 13 years ago. And I knew there was no way my dad was going to survive in an assisted living facility. He's got to go and shit. My dad's like, he's all OCD. He got to move, got to go like that. So I went and I got him out of the hospital. And then we moved him out to the desert where I live and stuff, right? And then so that's like around 2011, and so he had some money, and so luckily that was 2011, so that's like 3 years after the housing collapse, and the housing market was completely like at its lowest. It's one of these things how they say, you buy low, you sell high, right? So at that time the housing market was completely destroyed, so it was as low as it could be. And there happened to be this one house it was a brand new developing neighborhood, and it was the last house that they had built, and it was sitting there for a year. That's how bad the market had completely. And so they kept dropping the price, right? It was one of these things that, like, I had been looking around at houses and stuff, but the neighborhood I moved into, I wouldn't even go into that neighborhood because it was too expensive. It was obviously a nicer neighborhood that I couldn't afford, right? It was like I couldn't afford anything in there and shit, right? Because there's no way you were going to be able to touch anything in that neighborhood for under $200,000. There was just no fucking way. I knew it was definitely, and I was looking for something more around because we were wanting to pay cash and shit. So I was looking for something more like around the 150,000 was going to be more like 150 to 60 to 70, maybe the tops and shit, right? But that's more the range we were looking around, where like 200,000 was going to be like no. So I already knew the one neighborhood. I never even looked. I looked at every single. I would look at everything, but that was one of the neighborhoods that I had seen enough to know that I couldn't afford that neighborhood, right? And then so then it turns out, well, my dad moves out here and we go looking, now we're ready to buy a house, right? And so then we talked to the real estate agent because I said, okay, this is the area we want to live in. I said, this is the area I want to live in. This is what we're looking for. And then she brought me to this house, the house that we have. And it was in that neighborhood. It was too expensive, right? But what happened is they were lowering the price, and then they just lowered it another 20,000 to like 179, I think it was 179,000. They had got it down to 100, like I said, they were like 199, which was already lowered. Then they dropped it another 20,000, so they were asking 179. And then we came in with cash on that house and got it for 158 or 159,000. So it's just under 160 is what we got this house for. Brand new house and shit, right? Brand new. But so we moved to this house, and then one of the first things I did is I made that movie. I made the movie, my little documentary, my first one called Diana Says That's My Baby. So that video that I made in this house and shit, right? So the reason I'm saying that to you is because I want you to understand is that this whole Michael Jackson process of me like trying to do it, it's taken place while I've been taking care of my dad. And my dad's still alive. But now we're like way into it. And I've been doing it so long. This whole time, my dad has been deteriorating with Alzheimer's, and I've had to watch this while I've had to take care of him. And it's been years now. Like, I was still taking him out right in the beginning of when the COVID broke out. I still was taking him out in the beginning of that, but it was just barely into that, a couple months, that I stopped taking him out with me, right? I didn't want him to go out. And that's when he finally stopped actually going out with me. So that's been now a few years and stuff, right? Which at that point, now I have to like feed him every bite. I have to feed him, and because I have to change him and clean him and feed him everything. So this is like the advancements of how far it gets and stuff, right? And so I've been doing this for years and years and stuff, right? So this whole time, this entire time that I've been trying to do the Michael Jackson stuff, I'm also taking care of my dad and shit, right? It's paralleled with each other. So these are like these weird obstacles and these things of what you got to deal with. It's just the realities of life and stuff, right? And it's like I have to deal with all of this stuff. And I just simply ask like people, well, look at my work and just give me your opinion. And they can't do it because they're so fucking dumbed down and they're so actually immersed in Satan worship, and all the society has turned them into demonic, loser, evil Satan worship and fucking total morons. And Michael participated in that. He wanted you to be a Satan worshiper. He wanted you to treat him like an idol because his end game was to get the one person, a real fan. He had to create fans, and he had to create these people to worship him. And to do that, he thought that that's how it would get people to analyze his work and find the true discovery. See, it was a means to an ends for him, right? And so because of that, though, he sold his soul to Satan, and he worshipped the devil, and he dabbled in the black arts, and he pushed his black arts onto the public and shit, right? So like when people are talking about Michael's an angel, you don't know what the fuck you were talking about, right? No, Michael is a child of God, and God works in mysterious ways, but God allowed Michael Jackson to become a Satan worshiper so he could develop this story so it would lead to the realization of what a lie of what we've been living in. And that's what I'm here to expose. I'm here to do the next level. I'm actually here to do the actual God's part, to actually bring the truth and shit, right? So I'm the person I am and shit, right? So Michael doesn't impress me, right? Not like that. Not when we're talking about like good people and what they've actually done. I respect Michael as an artist and all that stuff. I fucking love that shit. He's great, no doubt about it. But he was never a better person than me. Like, so when I got Michael Jackson fans looking at Michael like he's some kind of angel, and I'm like, no, I'm the angel. Michael worshipped the devil and shit, right? I'm here to expose Michael Jackson's devil worship so I can expose to the population how we've been fooled and lied to, because I'm here delivering God's real message and shit, right? So that's enough for today. Just trying to convey that message to you people. Not that you're going to get it and understand anything and shit, right? But I have to try. Okay? I'll talk to you later. Bye.